What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity here. Hope you guys are doing well. Last week we talked about the worst maps in the Call of Duty franchise. We picked one map from every single game from COD 4 all the way to Modern Warfare 2 2022, and we went through the gauntlet to decide which map was the worst for each respective game. This week we're going to flip the script and talk about the best map in each respective game. So without further ado, let's get started with COD 4. Now, COD 4 has a ton of amazing maps. Some maps I absolutely love and would love to see a remaster of. Maps like Bog or Ambush or even Crossfire. But when it comes to the best map in the game, the map that I was excited to play every time it came up, has to go to Backlot. I don't know what it is about this map because it's a little bit different than the majority of Call of Duty maps we see today. It doesn't have the definitive 3-lane structure, but for whatever reason, the flow of this map, the way it plays, the different unique uses of cover, all work together and create one of the best maps in the Call of Duty franchise, and it was a shame that it wasn't remastered earlier. It was unfortunate that its first remaster came in Modern Warfare 2019, where they had to introduce doors and safe spaces to this map. But when it comes together, this is one of the strongest maps in the entirety of the Call of Duty franchise, and it's our first installment on this list. Now, while I didn't have a worst map for World at War, I do have a best map, or a favorite map, a map that I was always excited to play whenever it showed up in matchmaking, and that, of course, is Dome. Now, we've seen this reimagined in Call of Duty Vanguard, and spoiler alert, it's probably going to be my favorite map in Vanguard as well. But this map was a ton of fun to play back at World at War, and even though I was learning how to play first-person shooters at the time, this map didn't feel as expansive as other maps that World at War had to offer. So because of its small size, it was easy for me to play and learn, and frankly, it's my favorite map in World at War. And I'm sure I'm not alone with that. Moving to Modern Warfare 2, and this map might be my favorite in all of Call of Duty. And I remember staying up and waiting to play this map every single night. Just telling myself that, you know what, next time I get this map, after that game, I'll go to bed. And that map is, of course, Highrise. This is the epitome of map design in Call of Duty, and I love this map just so much, whether it was playing it on Search and Destroy and learning the spawn snipe or the spawn noob tube, or playing it in domination or team deathmatch and learning the proper flank routes to be able to surprise the enemy team. This is my favorite map in the franchise. This is my favorite map in Modern Warfare 2, and rightfully so. It deserves all the praise that it's ever earned. Fantastic map, super fun to play. Moving on to Black Ops 1, another formidable opponent to best map in the franchise. That, of course, is Firing Range. We have seen it reimagined time and time again. And I know people out there will say Nuketown, or people out there will say Summit. And while those maps are fantastic and a ton of fun to play, when it comes to Nuketown, I'm just a little burnt out on it. But when it comes to Firing Range, I'm always excited to play its reimaginings on any single Call of Duty game, or playing it back in its glory days on Black Ops 1. I love this map. I think it was a fantastic design by Treyarch back in 2010. Moving to Modern Warfare 3, and this one was difficult for me to decide which was my favorite, but I had to go with Arkaden. It's just a really fun map to play. And I knew every time that I was playing Arkaden, I was running my G36, and I was going to have a ball. Whether it was the really nice design of having it within a mall with the escalators, or it was the outdoor courtyard area. This map was fun to play, but it was also fun to look at. It was one of the few maps where Infinity Ward actually integrated some creativity into its map design, which was nice to see. A little bit different than usual. Now we move on to Black Ops 2, and I'm prepared to get some hate on this one, because it's tough to make the decision on what map I love the most from Black Ops 2 because there's so many bangers in this game. But I ultimately went with Hijacked. Little MSMC action on Hijacked, never hurt anybody, and it was, in my opinion, a better version of Nuketown, and it just works so well. It's such a fun map. Even playing it today on some Black Ops Cold War, I'm just reminded on how well designed the map was from top to bottom. Yes, Raid could easily go in here, but I don't know what it is about Hijacked. Anytime it comes up, I'm always willing to play it, even though sometimes when you're playing those long play sessions on Plutonium, all you're playing is Hijacked and Raid. Those maps are unbelievable, and I will never be upset about playing those maps. Now we move into Call of Duty Ghosts, and I was going through the Call of Duty maps list for this game, and I just remember how many bad maps there were in Call of Duty Ghosts. And it was very easy to choose which one I liked the most, and that is, of course, Warhawk. It was one of the few maps in the game that actually played like a traditional Call of Duty map and wasn't so gigantic. Like, even looking at some of these maps, like Stormfront or Siege or Whiteout, these maps are gigantic. Tremor, huge. Octane, massive. Prison Break, massive. They were all the same. They all felt the same. Just giant maps, but Warhawk was different. It was one of the few games that actually felt, a few maps, pardon me, that felt different than all the other ones that we'd played, and we're just so tired of playing, if I'm going to be completely honest. So, safe to say, Warhawk, best map in Ghosts, but that's not saying a lot. Moving to another game that had some pretty bad maps, Advanced Warfare. But Detroit, for some reason, was always fun to play. It was always enjoyable to play Detroit, just because it wasn't as vertical as the rest of the maps in this game. For whatever reason, they decided to keep it a little bit more boots on the ground for Detroit, and it worked to the game's advantage. It was a lot of fun to play Detroit, and frankly, it's one of the few maps in Advanced Warfare that I'd like to see them recreate for a boots on the ground gameplay, just to see how it would work. I doubt they ever do that, but it would be kind of interesting to see if they'd take that risk. Now moving on to Black Ops 3. Another game that has some really good candidates for best map in the game. There was a point where I could be persuaded to putting Stronghold here, but it has to be Hunted. This map was a banger at the beta, and it was a banger during the entirety of the game's life cycle. You could swim, wall run, use all of the advanced mechanics, and it was just a map that flowed perfectly. It works so well, and legitimately is one of the best maps in the entirety of the franchise, and it's a shame we haven't been able to re-experience it yet. And I'm hoping that we get that opportunity some point here in the near future. Just a top tier map. Way to go, Treyarch. Just killing it. Unfortunately, Infinite Warfare was not a game that killed it. No, instead it decided to try to kill all of Call of Duty. But it did make at least one decent map that I will put in this list and say, hey, you know what? Heartland was fun to play. I would go back and play Heartland again. That was one of the few maps I enjoyed playing in the entirety of Advanced Warfare's life cycle, Infinite Warfare's life cycle. And even though it's not the best map in the franchise, it's still a good enough map and goes for the best map in this game. Now, World War II surprisingly has some really good maps, and I will praise the fact that World War II, even though it didn't have a lot of content, even though it didn't have a lot of maps, still had maps that were overall enjoyable to play. And Ardennes Forest, in my opinion, was the best map in that game. It was a blast to play. Every time it showed up, I was ready to put on my STG and go marching forward, because it was a fun map to play. I have a ton of memories on it, and frankly, I wish that the game had more of that quality in it. But unfortunately, it didn't. And, yeah, that's all I have to say about World War II. Moving on to Black Ops 4. Arsenal just feels like a top-tier map. I don't know what it is from the moment I first played it to even today. Arsenal's always been a map that stuck with me. It's always been a fantastic map to play. Now, we're not talking about that secondary Arsenal Sandstorm map that is, frankly, one of the worst decisions ever made by Treyarch. We are talking about the base Arsenal. Very fun map, very well designed, and kudos to Treyarch again. You're killing it still. Look at you, kid. Don't worry, we got one of your games left, and yes, you killed it in this game too. Moving now to Modern Warfare 2019. Modern Warfare 2019's map design was terrible, to say the least. Some of the worst maps we've ever seen across the Call of Duty franchise, except when they came out with Shoot House. This was the only time it felt like Call of Duty was normal in the entirety of Modern Warfare 2019. It was the only time there was a map design that felt like Call of Duty. All the other maps were just weird designs and flows and never really worked. But Shoot House worked. So that's why it slots in as the best map in Modern Warfare 2019. Now moving towards Black Ops Cold War, we have to talk about Moscow. This is one of the best maps that I've played in recent memory from any Call of Duty title, and there's actually some other pretty good maps in Black Ops Cold War, like Crossroads Strike, but when it comes to just a map that is versatile for game modes and game style and play styles, it has to go to Moscow. This is one of my favorite maps to watch competitive Call of Duty on, and it was one of my favorite maps to play on. Whether it was league play or just some random team deathmatch game, the map always flowed really well, it always played well, and I'm glad that it's found its way onto this list. So good job, Moscow, good job, Treyarch, you guys killed it with the best maps that you guys could have created. Now we move on to Call of Duty Vanguard, and this was a struggle to find a good map in this game, holy smokes. But it has to go to Dome. I know we talked about it already with World at War, but we're going to talk about it here with Call of Duty Vanguard once again, because it's probably the only map in that game that was half decently fun to play, and it was because it was close quartered and it was small and it worked, unlike every other map they decided to implement in Call of Duty Vanguard, which for the most part just sucked. What a disappointing game that was overall. And now we come to the last game on this list, which of course is Modern Warfare 2. And Modern Warfare 2, like Call of Duty Vanguard, like Modern Warfare 2019, does not have a lot of maps that are worthy of being on this list, especially when you have some of the best maps in the entirety of the Call of Duty franchise. Highrise, Firing Range, Arkaden, Hijacked. These are some of the best maps we've ever seen. Yet, with Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2019, Call of Duty Vanguard, we have lackluster maps, disappointing maps. But at least I can sit here and say that El Asilo is half decent. It doesn't live up to some of the other maps in this game, but it's one of the better maps that Infinity Ward has on this list. So it's okay, but when you compare it to what Treyarch's created, it does not hold a candle. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite maps from the Call of Duty franchise? What are some of the best maps from the Call of Duty franchise? Maybe I missed one or two. Let me know with a comment down below. And as always, guys, if you want to send me your list, Twitter's down below on in the description. Maybe throw it in the comment section, whatever you like. But thank you very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next time.